The Trial of Ascension was older than most empires, carved into the heart of a dead world. Its halls had claimed more lives than the greatest wars of the galaxy combined. Every corridor bled history, every chamber a graveyard champions who entered seeking glory and emerged as ashen forgotten legends. To survive was not just triumph, it was transcendence. For centuries, the galaxy had treated it as the ultimate crucible of worth. Species sent their best, warriors bred for combat, hunters forged in violence, elites honed by training beyond imagination. The trial chewed them all. At best, a handful survived in each era, emerging half-mad, mutilated, and broken. And those few were celebrated as near gods. No one questioned why it existed anymore. It simply was. Some said the ancient architects had built it to select the rulers of their vanished empire. Others claimed the labyrinth was alive, feeding on the arrogance of challengers. There were rumors of whispers in its halls, voices of those it devoured, screaming eternally in unseen corridors. To stand before its gates was to feel the weight of 1,000,000 deaths pressing against one soul. Entire species had been defined by their failures. The Valerii once sent 100 of their finest. Not one returned. The Crothars sacrificed generations of their strongest. The trial turned their bones into dust. Even apex predators of the galactic wilds had been thrown inside as tests, only to vanish within minutes. Each tale deepened the aura of inevitability. The trial was designed not to be conquered, but to humble. It was a reminder that all life, no matter how powerful, had limits. And in that truth lay the fear. The announcement that a human had been selected to enter sent shockwaves across every council chamber and war forum. Humanity had been known to the galaxy for only a few centuries. Their worlds were backwater, their technology primitive compared to ancient civilizations, their fleets mere shadows beside armadas forged over millennia. They were classified as deathworlders, a label that brought both scorn and caution. The galaxy had learned early that the human homeworld was hostile beyond reason. Predators in every corner, climates that killed the unprepared, diseases that ravaged stronger species. But raw survival did not translate to mastery of the trial. To most, humans were fragile primates in armor they barely understood, lucky to endure but too reckless to outwit the labyrinth. The council chambers echoed with laughter when the name was revealed. They had expected a champion of the Turok Dominion, a clone-bred warrior of the Vare syndicates, or perhaps one of the bio-enhanced gladiators of Azure. Instead, it was a human woman. Her name, untranslatable in most alien tongues, was quickly replaced with one she carried willingly, Baba Yaga. At first, the aliens thought it was bravado, another attempt at swagger from a young species desperate for recognition. But when the humans explained, silence followed. Baba Yaga, they said, was a figure from their ancient myths, a witch who dwelled in the woods, who could not be killed, who devoured those who wandered into her path. A nightmare, immortal in story, feared even by children centuries after the tales were first whispered. The galaxy thought it strange. Humanity thought it appropriate. The woman herself spoke little. She was not armor like others who entered. She carried no grand weapons, no ornate shields blessed by priests, no genetic modifications. Her frame was lean, not bulky, her face calm, not fierce. When she was asked if she was afraid, she only tilted her head and smiled as though the question itself was misplaced. Fear, she said, was for those who did not yet know how to use it. Her preparation was different from what the galaxy expected. Most warriors spent weeks meditating, reciting oaths, or receiving biochemical augments. She studied maps of predators, learned the sound of alien creatures, and demanded to see accounts of every failed trial attempt. She did not seek strength. She sought knowledge. When the council offered her advanced alien weaponry, she declined. When they offered her armor, she stripped it down until only the essentials remained. When questioned, she gave no long explanation. She simply said, "Wait is death." The observers whispered among themselves. Some said humans misunderstood the magnitude of what was ahead. Others said she was arrogant, but the few who had studied humanity in depth knew better. This was not arrogance. This was clarity. To humans, survival was not ceremony. It was instinct honed through catastrophe. Their history was one endless record of enduring everything that should have annihilated them, Ice ages, plagues, wars, weapons of unimaginable devastation. Each time, they had not only endured but grown stronger. They did not prepare for glory. They prepared for tomorrow. On the day of entry, the trial's gates yawned open like the maw of a titan. The labyrinth stretched beyond vision, its walls shifting with unseen life, its air heavy with the scent of blood and oil. Crowds of aliens filled the observation halls. Entire fleets linked to broadcast to witness what many believed would be humanity's humiliating death. The Valerii whispered wagers on how many minutes she would last. The Crothar mocked her small frame. The Juror prepared speeches to ridicule the weakness of humans. She stood alone before the gate. No fanfare. No grand proclamation. Just a single figure in worn combat fatigues, hands bare, eyes steady. For a moment, silence stretched across the chambers. Every empire, every clan, every sovereign watched. She lifted her chin, and for the first time, she spoke clearly enough for the galaxy to hear. Her voice was low, carrying across the calms with calm certainty. "You warned me this would kill me," she said. "I've been warned before." Then she stepped forward. The gates shuddered, stone grinding against stone as the trial consumed her. The labyrinth's mouth sealed shut behind her with a sound like thunder, cutting her off from the outside world. The silence that followed was almost reverent. Aliens shifted uneasily, glancing at one another, unsettled not by what they had seen but by what they had not. There had been no trembling hands, no desperate prayers, no hesitation. She had walked into death as if into a familiar home. The labyrinth moved, shadows whispering against its walls, predators stirring in hidden dens. Somewhere deep within, teeth gnashed, claws scraped, illusions flickered into being, and the trial prepared to break its newest victim. And in the last flicker of light before the gates closed completely, she was smiling. The trial did not wait. The instant the gates sealed, it struck with hunger sharpened over eons. From the shadows of the labyrinth's first corridor came movement, claws on stone, the smell of musk and iron. Most who entered died here within minutes. The predators that hunted the first chamber were designed for shock and slaughter, bred to tear through armor and crush bone in one coordinated strike. For countless challengers, this was the end. For her, it was the beginning. The first creature lunged, a blur of muscle and fangs. She shifted her weight with no wasted motion, letting it pass, slamming her elbow into its skull with a crack that echoed down the hall. Another surge from the flank. Her hand shot out, grabbing jagged stone from the wall, jamming it deep into the soft tissue under its jaw. It collapsed thrashing, blood pouring across the floor. The rest circled, uncertain, hesitating as she crouched over her kill. She pulled free the shard of stone, wiped it clean against her leg, and smiled as though she had just been handed a tool. The aliens watching from the observation chambers leaned forward, unsettled. Every other species fought with the weapons left in caches scattered across the labyrinth. She had ignored them. She was making her own. By the time the last of the beasts lunged, she was ready. She did not dodge. She stepped forward into its charge, rammed the shard into its eye, twisted, and used the momentum of its fall to tear bone from its leg. When she stood, she held a sharpened femur in one hand, a jagged stone in the other, and blood soaking her arms. She did not look like prey. She looked like a predator who had just begun hunting. Word spread quickly among the alien crowds. The Valerii murmured that she was lucky. The Crothar insisted the labyrinth would crush her spirit in the deeper chambers. But the Juror, the ones who live for war, watched silently, their confidence fading. They saw something familiar in her methods, something older than technology or ceremony. The labyrinth twisted, and new threats emerged. Environmental hazards designed to disorient, toxic air clouds meant to choke, shifting platforms that collapsed without warning. Most challengers wasted precious time studying these traps or fled until exhaustion dragged them down. She did neither. She moved with ruthless efficiency, cataloging dangers, marking stone with blood, tracking patterns the labyrinth tried to hide. Where others saw chaos, she saw rhythm. Every collapse, every shift, every poisonous mist. It was alive, yes, but it was predictable if one was willing to bleed enough to learn its rules. She learned quickly. The second wave of predators was worse. Taller than she was, armor with plates that shrugged off most weapons, claws dripping venom that dissolved metal. They had been crafted specifically to counter the strongest species in the galaxy. But strength alone had never been the human path. She did not fight them head-on. She ran, drew them into tunnels too tight for their bulk, baited them into collapsed zones, forced them to fight the labyrinth itself. When the dust cleared, she emerged dragging one of their claws, the venom still dripping, its corpse wedged into the rubble it caused. She had not just killed it, she had made it kill itself. Those watching began to whisper in fear. To them, the trial was a gauntlet of horrors meant to be endured. To her, it was a puzzle to be solved and turned against itself. Her weapons grew with each encounter. Bones sharpened into blades, venom collected into crude reservoirs, sinew twisted into cords. Where another species would cling to their ceremonial weaponry until it broke, she was constantly adapting, discarding what slowed her, refining what worked, always looking for the next advantage. Then came the illusions. The trial probed her mind, warping sound and sight, filling the air with whispers of failure, shadows of her past, faces twisted in agony. The Valerii had gone mad in these chambers, tearing out their own eyes. The Crofter had slaughtered each other under hallucinations of betrayal. Even Azure champions had faltered here, breaking against visions of their ancestors. But humans were born in nightmares. Their minds evolved to sense predators in the dark, to dream of fangs at the cave mouth, to live with fear as a constant companion. She did not deny the hallucinations. She acknowledged them, then moved through them like fog. Her stride never broke. Her eyes never flickered. The labyrinth whispered death, and she whispered back, "Not today." When she reached the predator nests, the observers held their breath. These were no ordinary beasts. They had been engineered over centuries to embody fear itself. Eyes glowing in darkness, claws that clicked with deliberate menace, teeth that never dulled. They were released in packs, designed to overwhelm through terror and numbers. But terror to her was nothing more than a signal that something worth killing was near. She did not retreat. She stalked them. She smeared her body in the blood of the first one she killed, masking her scent, blending into the labyrinth's living environment. She set traps from bone and sinew, laid bait trails with blood, and hunted them one by one until the pack that once owned the dark was reduced to silence. The Watchers could not reconcile what they were seeing. She was not surviving the trial. She was transforming it. It was supposed to be the devourer of champions, yet here it was being devoured by her, piece by piece. The labyrinth adapted, but she adapted faster. Every new challenge it offered, she turned into a weapon. Every predator became material. Every hazard became opportunity. Where most sought to endure until the trial released them, she was dismantling it as though it were prey caught in her trap. Hours turned into days. The trial never stopped, and neither did she. Exhaustion was a weapon the labyrinth wielded well, yet she wore it like a cloak. Her steps slowed, but her precision sharpened. Her body bled, but her strikes became more efficient. Wounds that would cripple others she bound with strips of predator hide, moving forward without hesitation. She slept only in fragments, her back against stone, traps set around her, every breath controlled. The labyrinth pressed harder, sensing it could not break her with monsters alone. It unleashed storms of fire, rivers of acid, gravity shifts that crushed bone. And still she endured. At one point, the labyrinth tried to suffocate her with a chamber that sealed and filled with toxic gas. She did not panic. She cut open the corpses of predators she had slain, used their biology as crude filters, and built a breathing system from their remains. Aliens recoiled in disgust as they watched, yet could not look away. It was the essence of humanity distilled into a single act. Refuse to die, no matter the cost, and turn the impossible into survival with nothing but will and the willingness to use whatever lay within reach. By the time she reached the midpoint, she no longer resembled the woman who had entered. Her body was scarred, painted in alien blood, carrying weapons no species had ever seen, because no one else had thought to make them. The trial had meant to break her. Instead, it had armed her,